The bookshop smelled of pine, clove, and dry paper. Snow pushed against the windows with the patience of someone who had the whole night ahead. She tapped the switch for the display window, and the paper stars fell into eclipse. "Wonderful," she said. "The universe demanded Christmas drama from me." The doorbell chimed, and in walked a magazine specimen in a parka, poster jawline, and a tempered smile. "I've got a camera light," he announced. "If your inspector approves." The inspector, Dorian blue-eyed gray cat, sniffed his boot, climbed onto the backpack, and settled there as though he already paid rent. "Approved," she declared. The jury purrs. The newcomer plugged in the light, and the warm glow restored the star's aura. She handed him an enamel mug. The steam of coffee sweetened the air. When he unrolled a garland to reinforce the window display, the cord possessed of a personality rebelled. It flickered, slipped loose, and threatened a cascade of stars. "Hold it," she said, hands already up.
He lifted his own. They met palm to palm, for one exact second.
With the pressure just right so nothing would fall. Their breaths crossed at garland height. Dorian, very helpful, stepped on a key of the old speaker and blasted a carol wildly offbeat. "DJ Dorian on deck," she joked. "He takes requests," he said. "I'm requesting this thing not collapse on us." "I'm an Aries on fire," she improvised. "Forget straight lines. Let's zigzag. I want constellations." "That's done," he replied with a half-bow, climbing the ladder. The garland sagged. A treacherous tug splashed coffee onto his sleeve. "Don't move," she ordered, stepping close with a cloth. She brushed the fabric with the tip of her fingers, short, slow movements. Fabric against fabric, she felt heat under her thumb. Dorian watched with the expression of a union supervisor. "The scarf," he murmured. "May I?" he asked with his eyes. She nodded. He adjusted her scarf so it wouldn't brush the hot light, his fingers gliding carefully over the wool. The knot ended up centered. Perhaps her heart, too. When they finished, the shop window looked like a modest, perfect piece of sky. Dorian settled atop the power strip like a guardian against blackouts. The bell didn't betray them. Outside, it snowed. Inside, the light felt like a secret they both knew how to keep. "I'm Harry Mitchell," he said at last, offering his hand with a smile that asked for complicity, not haste. "Phoebe Allen," she replied, taking it, one eyebrow lifted. "Mitchell, I know who you are. Your Aunt Gwen runs the guest house by the old bridge, and your mother organizes the blanket drive. You're the youngest, right? The one who came back for a season and ended up staying." He laughed, caught and comfortable. "Guilty, and armed with at least one useful light. And good hands," Phoebe admitted, nodding at the constellation. Dorian meowed, as if certifying that, yes, the universe was finally in order. The clock marked an afternoon that had turned to cotton. Phoebe and Harry took shelter at the counter with 2 steaming mugs. "So, photographer of what exactly?" Phoebe asked, curious without intruding. "Of pretty much anything involving cold, mud, or patience," he smiled. "Town festivals, shelter campaigns, portraits, and a lot of mountain work. I make small series, working hands, trades, campfires. That explains your camera light, and that I can start a fire with 2 rocks' face," she shot back, amused. "And you reader of what exactly?" Harry countered. "Anything readable with a cat on top. Travel chronicles, northwestern poetry, and a weakness for winter tailies." Dorian, the non-negotiable guest, settled between them like a warm bridge. "All right," Harry said. "Urgent recommendation. Something short, snow-related, but not a carol." "I've got an anthology of storm stories," Phoebe offered. "Comes with imaginary blankets." The doorbell tried to ring, but the wind smothered it. Phoebe looked at the glass. The snow had risen like a wall. "Oh," she said, one syllable that pulled silence with it. "We're snowed in." Harry peeked out. The street was a white ocean, no curb, no path. "Good news," he reported. "This is the best place possible to be trapped. Bad news. We're going to run out of coffee. Unless we turn it into science." Phoebe breathed in, and Aquarius in command shifted gears. "Plan," she announced, already grabbing the carafe. "Tasting session for the shelter's charity expo. We choose an official drink, photogenic, delicious, and easy to replicate. Pre-candidates, Orion Mist Pine Map and Comet Cardamom. Expedition approved, Harry said, Sagittarian and delighted. I narrate the adventure. You steer the ship. They lined up the enamel mugs as if they were stations on a map. Dorian hopped onto a stool and assumed his role as ancient-eyed judge. First stop, Orion Mist, soft base with orange and cinnamon. Phoebe turned the grinder crank and it protested with a groan. That sounds like an asthmatic wail, she diagnosed. Or a jealous screw, Harry replied, already brandishing a ridiculously tiny screwdriver. May I operate? Under feline supervision, Phoebe approved. Shoulder to shoulder they loosened the piece until the grinder purred. Dorian tapped twice with his paw. Steam dressed the air. She poured 2 mugs. When she handed him one, their fingers touched finger on finger, holding the handle a second too long. Flavor geologist, Phoebe ordered. Verdict, solid foundations, he said. Needs sun more orange and a little emotional heat. She laughed with her eyes. While she changed the filter, Harry leaned in. You've got foam here, he indicated. Phoebe brushed the corner of her lip with her thumb. The gesture lingered in the air like a blink held too long. Second stop, Comet Cardamom. Phoebe crushed the pods. Their aroma lifted the night. Harry brushed against her scarf. Mind if I fix it? It's fighting the steamer. She nodded. He adjusted it carefully, fingers gliding over wool, skin brushing fabric, knowing exactly when to stop. Under the counter their knees bumped. Nobody apologized. Dorian observed, solemn, and marked a brief tap. They tasted. For people who believe in second cups, Harry decided, but it competes with the pine of the bookshop. Then let's go for the pine, Phoebe resolved deficient. Third stop, Pine Map. No literal pine, just a resinous blend with cedar and orange notes. Phoebe dosed with a steady hand. Harry held the scale so it wouldn't wobble. The extraction dripped in a golden thread. If this doesn't warm you, nothing will, Phoebe murmured. They clinked mugs. The flavor was round, the kind that shrinks the world. Dorian gave a double tap and curled against Phoebe's elbow. Approved. Official drink, Phoebe declared. Pine Map. For the Shelter Expo we'll shoot hands preparing cups, pouring foam, cinnamon in the air. Faces out of frame. I want the focus on the cause, not on us. Harry held her gaze seriously, for real. Copy that. I'll do the hand show and you set the rules. Perfect, said Phoebe, already grabbing her phone. I'll update the neighbors for the shelter chat. They'll be thrilled to have projects confirmed. The counter held 3 mugs in a row and 1 promise between them. Harry, still close, brushed her wrist lightly with his fingertip. Phoebe, he whispered. She looked at him. The distance between their mouths shrank. Breath shared. Fabrics barely brushing. Dorian lifted his head, torn between referee or silence. Then 3 deep, metallic knocks at the door. Another, a third, snow falling like a curtain. Did you hear that? She whispered, still close. Yeah, he murmured, equally close. The bell vibrated without fully ringing. A muffled voice through the wind. Anyone in there? I brought a shovel. Phoebe and Harry separated an exaggerated 2 centimeters. Dorian meowed, sounding like interruption accepted. Rescue, Harry announced, half laugh, half lament. Almost kiss cancelled, Phoebe replied, with a smile that promised rescheduling. He offered his hand to help her down from the stool. They held hand to hand, firm but soft. First we clear the way, she said. And then we follow the map. She loosened the latch. The door opened just enough to reveal a silhouette with a shovel and a snow-laden hat. The cold entered politely and left a tiny puddle on the rug. Outside, the night citrus and promise. Inside, everything waiting. And destiny. Already plotting. The shovel hit the sidewalk like a martial drum. When the bookshop door opened, Gwen came in first, pom-pom hat, red cheeks, and behind her 2 neighbors with shovels slung over their shoulders, leaving behind an obedient trail of snow. Dorian inspected the operation, sniffed the edge of a boot, and satisfied climbed onto a crate. Path cleared, Gwen announced proudly. Quite the storm. And quite the improvised rescue team. The neighbors took in Phoebe and Harry, strategically aligned at the counter. 3 mugs in a row, and a chalkboard that read Pine Map Shelter Special. One of them, the one in the striped hat, blurted out an awkward joke. Well, well. Looks like we've got spring and winter working side by side. And very warmly, judging by the looks of it, added the other, quieter but still perfectly audible. Phoebe gave a diplomatic smile. Harry returned the joke with calm ease. Warm from the coffee, he said, lifting a mug. Gwen set her shovel beside the doormat. Kids, I have to say something in my aunt/committee mode. Congratulations on surviving the snow in, but you know how this town is? We don't want people saying Harry's glued to the bookshop. Not ideal to stir up gossip with the Shelter Expo right around the corner. She looked at the neighbors seeking backup. What Gwen means, translated the striped hat neighbor, is maybe Harry shouldn't be the one out front. Someone else might need to lead the campaign, you know? Just to keep gossip from stealing the spotlight. Dorian hopped onto the counter and sat on the pine map chalkboard as if guarding meeting minutes. Phoebe swept up the snow that had snuck inside and, as she stepped back, nearly missed a puddle. Harry caught her wrist with just the right amount of pressure to steady her. Thanks, she said, easing her hand out of his, breath still close. Gwen cleared her throat, aware of the moment but unwilling to chop anyone's head off. Look, I love you both, but I don't want noise drowning the cause, she explained. If someone else signs as the responsible party, this blows over without a whisper. Phoebe placed both hands on the counter and spoke clearly. My shop, my rules. The cause belongs to everyone and I respect it. For the campaign, the window will show photos of hands' faces out of frame. If we need an official name, it can be mine. Harry can help from the shadows, or from the light. I'll decide. Harry nodded silently, letting his aunt and the neighbors see him accept it with good humor. Yes, Captain, he murmured to Phoebe, soft enough for her alone. Order received. Gwen relaxed by 1 whole centimeter. Good, then we'll keep clearing the path, she concluded. If you need salt bags, let us know. And, she glanced at Harry with a smirk. Less glue and more shovel, nephew. Yes. Auntie, he replied dramatically, earning 2 laughs. The mini-committee withdrew, promising to return with salt and a thermos. The bell hung in a quiet that smelled of paper and pine. Dorian hopped off the chalkboard and curled around Phoebe's feet, instant anchor effect. I saved you the speech, I know, she said, eyeing the pattern of her own footprints on the floor. About earlier. The almost kiss, we don't need to talk about it. It was the moment. Snow, being stuck, good vibes. There's no commitment between us. And she tried to joke but came out honest. A guy like you isn't going to like someone like me beyond the spark. Harry said nothing. He let her speak with respect. No gesture, no interruption. Just attentive silence and the steady pulse at the base of his neck. Phoebe inhaled to sort her cards. I care about you, seriously, she continued. And I know how to read reality. That was a chemistry spike, a heat-of-the-moment thing. Happens, we don't have to turn it into anything. I'd rather you didn't get burned because of me. Only then did Harry look straight at her.
He set his mug on the counter, unhurried.
He stepped closer, leaving space for her to step back if she wanted. Phoebe, he said quietly, I'm a 28-year-old man. I've seen the world, and I know what I want. I like you. The sentence landed cleanly on the wood. He didn't add more. Didn't touch her right away. He waited for the smallest sign. She didn't step back. The corner of her mouth trembled, barely. Harry lifted one hand and brushed her scarf. With the other, he held the counter's edge visible, respectful. When Phoebe tilted her chin ever so slightly, he closed the distance with a movie-worthy kiss. Not pushing but enveloping. Hands that only supported, fabric muting the world, breath finding its rhythm. Dorian meowed once brief, like signing the blueprint. They pulled apart slowly. Harry smiled, still close. I'm going to help with the shoveling, he said. See you in a bit, Captain. Phoebe remained with the pine citrus taste of the pine map and a heartbeat too big for any mug. She looked at the window display. A paper star casting its shadow right over the counter, like an extraordinarily precise map. The bell didn't ring. What am I supposed to do with this intel and this heat? Get my life complicated? Phoebe wondered. The scene kept the secret with elegant, snowy discretion. The next morning, the snow lay in clean seams along the sidewalk. Inside the bookshop, the air smelled of pine and new cardboard. Harry arrived carrying a box of reflectors and wearing a smile that said, "I brought portable sunshine." "Hand crew report," he greeted. "Captain present," Phoebe replied, already in her apron. Dorian inspected the box and climbed inside as if it were a luxury studio. The day unfolded shoulder to shoulder. Harry set up a mini-set by the display window. Phoebe calibrated enamel mugs, cinnamon, and strips of craft paper with names. There were shots of pouring, foam, cinnamon falling midair, and hands tying ribbons on donations. Dorian demanded his cameo and posed briefly on the counter corner, blue eyes glowing like beacons. "Photo approved by the feline," Harry declared, clicking. "That's a quality seal," Phoebe confirmed, and without thinking adjusted his sweater. He responded by fixing the edge of her apron so it wouldn't snag on the cable. A whole silent choreography. The afternoon brought volunteers and a couple of curious neighbors. Gwen stopped by to say thanks and dropped off a thermos. There were laughs, sales, promises to return with family. By nightfall, the last neighbor left with a final perfect joke. "That coffee takes years off," he winked. "It makes us prettier," Phoebe added, earning a collective amen. The bell quieted. Phoebe pulled the blinds halfway down. They were alone now with the hum of the light and the steam from 2 mugs no longer belonging to work. "Harry," she said, leaning on the counter, "I like you too. A lot." He didn't move. He waited. "But I'd rather keep us a secret," she continued. "I don't want anyone turning the campaign into a reality show. We can see each other, yes, but no announcements. I'm the face for the shelter, and I want the conversation to stay on that." Harry set the camera aside and drew a deep breath. "I don't want to star in the sequel to The Graduate," he said, half joking, half serious. "We're 2 adults, and I don't want to hide what I feel. But," he looked at her, "if it's only until the Christmas campaign ends, and then we go public like any normal couple, I can accept that." "It'll be only until then," Phoebe assured him. "After the campaign, if you still agree, we walk down the street holding hands. I promise." Harry nodded, but raised a finger, negotiating. "One condition. If things go well between us, we go public on Christmas Day, not a day later." 2 weeks. Phoebe held his gaze. "Deal," she said. Dorian meowed as if stamping the document. Phoebe switched off the open sign and turned on a warm light in the back room. "Then, starting today." She began, and didn't finish because Harry was already close, unhurried, asking permission with his eyes. She nodded. Their hands found each other first, barely a press across the knuckles. He untied her apron gently. She, by habit alone, brushed a speck of cinnamon from his lip with her thumb. The world shrank to soft breaths and fabrics whispering. "When you say the word," he murmured. "Now," she said. In the back room, the couch looked as though it had been waiting forever for this little pact. Dorian, discreet for once, chose to nap inside the reflector box. The rest happened in a language they already knew. Caresses, kisses, hands that held and listened. The door stayed ajar. The bell didn't judge. The light didn't stare. A while later, the bookshop regained its normal breathing, the lamp still warm, the pine scent floating like a rug. Phoebe opened her eyes on the couch, wrapped in a blanket and a silence that didn't weigh. Harry, beside her, half asleep, one hand resting over hers light, willing. "That was—" Harry began, searching for a word that wouldn't violate any code. "Yes," she said, and her smile came out peaceful. "It was wonderful." Nothing more needed saying. Instead, they tucked the pact into their inner pockets. Harry kissed her forehead, brief, then sat up to prepare 2 tiny cups of the official blend. "To the short-term secret," he toasted. "And to the announcement in 2 weeks." Phoebe drank, set the cup down, and allowed herself 1 more minute just to savor the idea. Then she closed her eyes again for a beat and thought with private humor that the next 2 weeks would feel longer than a tutorial without a skip ad button. Dorian, as if reading her mind, flicked off the backroom light with his tail. Outside, a gentle snowfall. Inside, a promise of future. The square smelled of bark and cotton candy. The speakers coughed out carols, and the municipal tree waited for its moment of glory wrapped in a coat of unlit bulbs. Phoebe and Harry set up the official booth for the shelter's charity campaign. A clean sign, pine map, every cup equals real help, a sealed donation jar, and an easel with photos of hands preparing coffee. Emergency signal, Phoebe whispered while lining up the mugs. If anyone gets intense with questions, I ring the little bell. You rotate the thermos and talk about cedar notes and how everything goes to the shelter. Copy that, Harry replied. And thermal code. If you need heat, shared pocket. She raised one eyebrow, amused. Professional but not boring. Gwen stopped by early with a bag of salt and shelter stickers. They stick cute. They work cute, she corrected, conspiratorial. Break sales for the cause. The flow began. Constant steam, children with red noses laughing, coats crackling. Harry served and told the story of the Pine Map blend. Phoebe finished each cup with a flick of cinnamon and pointed to the small sign. Helping hands beside the donation jar. A local hobbyist took photos for the town bulletin. A little smile, please. Phoebe and Harry smiled like a unified campaign team. Under the counter, though, the night was cold. Thermal code. She slid her hand into his pocket. He received it without looking, hand to hand, warm palm, barely a squeeze. The camera clicked. By mid-afternoon, the choir arrived. Between songs, a couple of comments bounced near the booth. They say that Mitchell boy is glued to the bookstore girl. It must be the spotlight cable, Harry murmured, private joke aimed only at Phoebe. She rang the bell twice. All good. They kept serving. Between cups, Harry whispered orders into Phoebe's ear so he wouldn't have to shout. 1 with extra orange. 2 without foam. Name on the cup, Captain. His breath brushed her skin, and she kept her eyes on the pour. Commander, focus on the mission. Fundraising, she teased, pointing at the donation jar. The photographer returned hungry for close-ups. A shot of the hands dusting cinnamon, please. I love that helping hands idea. Harry switched to presenter mode. The trick is height, he explained, holding the mug so Phoebe could sprinkle cinnamon from above over the sign. All proceeds go to the shelter. His fingers touched hers for a second to guide the gesture. Click. Again. Click. Suddenly, a mischievous gust made the booth's paper star come loose, dangling by one corner. I'll go, Harry said. I've got the ladder, Phoebe countered, but he was already on the small stool, arms stretched high. The star danced a little more. Phoebe held the base of the board with both hands and his coat brushed her forehead. Try now, she said. Harry secured the star. Under the tablecloth with his other hand, he found Phoebe's and squeezed 1 second, no more. Then he climbed down. Thanks, partner, he said, neutral tone but bright eyes. Solid campaign deployment. The countdown to the lighting ceremony began. The whole square murmured the numbers. Gwen reappeared with extra thermoses and a smile asking the universe for patience. On 3, 2, 1, the tree exploded into light. People applauded. Phoebe's chin trembled just a fraction from her own emotion and the crowd's. Harry brushed the back of his fingers. Against her elbow, barely there.
When Christmas comes, he whispered, you owe me 1 clumsy waltz in the square. Minimum public gesture.
I step on you, you lead. The photographer caught another shot. For a moment, the frame showed 2 hands inside the same pocket of Harry's coat. But a kid jumped in front of the booth at the last second, blocking half the shot with his scarf and leaving a photo of kid, cinnamon, and donation jar, which earned applause. The night kept flowing. Between customers there were tiny winks, coins passed palm to palm under the cloth, knees touching when they both bent to grab napkins. The secret was intact, and the campaign thriving. When they closed, the tree kept shining like it was standing guard. Phoebe and Harry counted the donations, sealed the envelope, and locked it into the town hall booth's safe. Gwen said goodbye with a more tomorrow and a look that said, I see you, but I'll let you be. Mission accomplished, Phoebe said, packing the thermos. We still have the waltz pending, he reminded her, half a smile. She blew her bangs off her forehead. Harry stepped close, 1 breath away. Captain, end of day code. Which one? Phoebe asked, unmoving. Shared trash bag until the dumpster, he said, lifting the sack. Professional and not boring, she conceded. They walked the bag to the dumpster together, coordinated, discreet, and delightfully ridiculous. The booth's paper star held steady at last. The square emptied out. Above them, the tree kept declaring that sometimes light switches on at exactly the right moment. 3 days before Christmas. Light slipped in sideways through the blinds. The room smelled of warm pine map someone had left on the knitstand and of clean snow. Phoebe woke first, hand in hand with Harry under the blanket. The faint pressure of his fingers was a sweet anchor. Dorian, curled in the crook of their knees, purred with physics-approved contentment. "Good morning, Captain," Harry murmured, baritone freshly minted. "Good morning, Commander," she replied, not moving. "Damage report, 0. Smile report, too many for this hour." He brought his lips to hers, a brief kiss. "I'd stay like this until January," Harry said. "But the fundraiser won't run itself, and neither will the secret," Phoebe admitted, brushing her thumb over his knuckle. Phoebe's phone buzzed on the knitstand, again and again. Dorian opened one blue eye. "Fire?" Harry asked. "Town bulletin," she said, already reading. "They've posted the lighting ceremony recap, with photos." She zoomed in. "Oh, no!" On screen. A shot of the official booth donation jar, mug, a very recognizable scarf, and Phoebe's red thread bracelet. No faces, but the puzzle had few pieces. Ping, ping, ping. Messages from the neighborhood chat. "Beautiful booth today, go Phoebe." "Is that the Mitchell kid in the coat?" "I only care about the donation jar, not the coat." "Where's the online link?" Phoebe exhaled slowly. Harry pushed up on one elbow. "Give me the phone," he said gently. She passed it to him, their fingers brushed along the edge. Harry read and nodded. "There's curiosity, yeah, but also donations asking for the QR." He met her eyes. "How do you feel?" "Like I'm ice skating in public," she said honestly. "But with a helmet." Dorian stood, and with deliberate feline gravitas, tapped a paw on the screen. It opened the shelter's chat. "Community manager weighs in," Harry translated. "More meows, less drama." Phoebe laughed, and it lowered the tide. The doorbell rang. Gwen appeared, pom-pom hat and Tupperware in hand. "I come bearing cookies and social peace," she announced, stepping in with snow-squeaking boots. "I saw the bulletin before anyone. If the town's gonna talk, let them donate first. We'll put out an official post today. Hands, jar, QR. Caption neighborhood team. Anyone who wants a soap opera can go to the library." She winked. "I am the librarian," Phoebe reminded her, amused. "Then they can take a number," Gwen shot back. Then, quieter, "And if anyone pokes too hard, send them to me. I have a master's in topic changing." Dorian inspected the Tupperware. Approved. Gwen left cookies and departed, promising, "I'll post positive comments." When the door closed, silence returned with a hint of butter in the air. Phoebe looked at Harry. He held her wrist with just the right pressure and adjusted the scarf she'd left on a chair. "Breathe," he said. "We're in this together." "Okay, strategy?" Phoebe switched gears. "We double down on the campaign with a neutral public gesture. Today I'm doing a quick no faces, yes cinnamon workshop in the square. Only hands. Harry, you take photos. Gwen moderates comments. Dorian poses as living logo. Copy that," he said. "And reminder, Christmas is still the date." "I know," she smiled. "And, thanks for not forcing timelines. Thanks for not hiding me," he replied. The rest of the day moved like an ascending chord. In the bookstore, Phoebe set up the demo table with enamel mugs. Filters, the kettle, and the sign. Every cup equals real help. Dorian claimed the filter box as his throne. Harry refined his shots. Close-ups of hands pouring, cinnamon in the air, coins clinking into the jar. Her phone buzzed again and again. Gwen kept her promise with kind jokes and donation links. A couple of comments had bite. Phoebe answered with calm professionalism and a mug emoji. Each time doubt flickered, Harry steadied her with a look. "Team," he said. "Team," she echoed. By sunset, they had set up the easel in the square. A small circle of curious neighbors approached. Phoebe clearly explained the pine map recipe and why the focus was on hands. "The cause comes first." Harry photographed from low angles, making sure the frame showed solidarity, not gossip. "And the cat?" a child asked. Right on cue, Dorian jumped onto the tiny stand wearing a mini scarf. Applause. "Certified class," Phoebe declared. Mid-demo, her phone vibrated again. "Town bulletin. Thank you all for supporting the Pine Map campaign. Here's the donation QR. Under the text one of the hand photos they were taking right that second. "They're watching us," Harry whispered near her ear, sparing her from checking the screen. "Then let's make it pretty," Phoebe said. The workshop ended with applause. They raised more money than planned. A rumor tried to sneak in. Gwen smothered it with a quick, "Did you donate yet?" Back at the bookstore, Phoebe locked the door, dimmed the lights, and leaned on the counter. Harry came closer hand over hand on the wood. "Today went well," he said. "Yes," she agreed. "And 3 days to go." 3, he repeated, as if savoring a countdown. They stayed in that cushioned silence. Then, as if the cat had a clock, Dorian flicked off the reading nook lamp with his tail. "Message received," Phoebe smiled. "Community manager says rest," Harry translated. She let her forehead fall onto his shoulder, a gesture that was both an embrace and a promise. Shared breathing filled the room. Later came long kisses, passion in the bedroom, and the quiet certainty that their plan was holding. 3 days, Phoebe whispered. 3 days, Harry echoed. The paper star in the window cast a perfect shadow over a photo of their intertwined hands. The night smelled of pine and good news. Christmas was 3 days away, just enough time for a secret to transform into a public promise. Christmas Day, the shelter smelled of citrus disinfectant, clean blankets, and hope. Outside, the snow crunched. Inside, fairy lights and forever home posters. Phoebe arrived with Dorian in his carrier acting as honorary inspector, and with the sealed fundraising envelope. Harry, beside her, carried a box of enamel mugs and a thermos of pine map. "Hands team, final report," he said. "Ready," she replied, her smile half pride, half nerves. Gwen came out to greet them wearing a new hat that looked like a plum cake. "Hand over the donation jar, the envelope, the cat, and also the joy," she commanded, hugging them. The lobby filled with neighbors, volunteers, and 2 families hoping to adopt. On a table, a sign read, "Every cup equals real help." Harry efficiently set up the mini hand photo station, shots of gloved hands serving coffee, donations dropping into the jar, and ribbons tied around food boxes. "All right, Captain," he said. Final cinnamon sprinkle of the year. Phoebe raised her hand.
He held the mug, aligning her fingers with the lightest pressure. Click. Soft applause.
Dorian, in jealous professional mode, perched atop the carrier. "Official deliveries," Gwen announced with the ceremony of a master of ceremonies. From the pine map booth and the bookstore Phoebe Allen and Harry Mitchell, Phoebe took a steady breath and extended the envelope. "It's from all of us," she said. "Hands from the neighborhood." "Let it go to blankets, litter, medicine, and extra treats," Harry added, earning laughter and a "my" from Dorian. A wildly enthusiastic puppy broke free from the play area and greeted Harry with an uncoordinated paw swipe. It left a mark on the back of his hand. "Ah," he said, without fuss. "Express first aid," Phoebe decreed. She led him to a corner, cleaned the scratch with gauze, and placed a bandage eyes saying more than lips dared. Dorian watched the procedure with melodramatic feline scandal, then brushed Harry's ankle as approval stamp. "Thank you," Harry said. "Dr. Allen, we bill in donations," she replied. The shelter manager requested quiet. "Before we move on to adoptions," he announced, Harry prepared something. "Says it's short, no faces, just hands." The lights dimmed a little. On an improvised screen, photos appeared, fingers tying ribbons, palms holding mugs, arms passing bags of kibble, nails stained with ink from the sign, "Every cup equals real help." The sequence ended with an image of 2 intertwined hands, Phoebe's red bracelet and Harry's scarf out of focus. Below it, a simple line, "Neighborhood team." A murmur rippled through the room, half tenderness, half recognition. Phoebe felt her heart jump. She searched for Harry. He wasn't looking at her yet, he was watching the crowd, humble and solid. "Before the rumor mill starts," Harry said into the mic, "one thing. This," he gestured to the photos, "is the town helping. It's the cause, and..." Now he looked at her. "Phoebe and I are a couple, not to steal focus, but to add to it. We agreed to say it today if all went well." It went well. The silence that followed was a strange, beautiful hug. Gwen, from the back, chimed in. "All right, people dance or donate. It all counts." Phoebe stepped forward, exactly 1 step. Her voice was clear. We promised Christmas, and it's Christmas. We're a couple. And we'll still be showing hands for the shelter. If anyone has questions, trade them for cat food. Laughter, applause. A young bravo. Dorian meowed like an official stamp. Harry moved toward her.
Captain, he whispered, I want my clumsy waltz. Of course. Here, among cages and blankets, seems perfect, she said.
A volunteer put on Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, the Michael Bublé version soft over a speaker. Hand in hand, they stepped slowly. They stumbled, laughed, adjusted their rhythm. It wasn't grand. What it communicated without shouting was, You're shaking, he murmured close. It's emotion. And the cold floor, she lied halfway. I have an idea, Harry said. He stepped back for 1 second and grabbed the mic again. Last thing, promise. Christmas gesture. With the shelter's permission, I'll personally cover the adoption fee for every senior pet 7 and up who finds a home today. He lifted a box filled with vouchers. And if anyone wants to sponsor, the cards are right here. The applause now was crisp and echoing. A woman raised her hand. I'll take pistachio. Another. And I'll take niebla. A third. I'll sponsor Luna. Phoebe felt something inside her unbutton. She turned to Harry. He looked at her like someone recognizing a constellation. This is stealing focus, she whispered, tearful but unbothered. It's giving it away, he corrected. And dancing with you, and saying it together, Phoebe added. She took his hand and lifted it slightly, as if presenting someone. Harry and I. Laughter. Finally. About time. A resigned sigh Gwen neutralized with a tray of cookies. Dorian, owning the scene, hopped onto the counter and posed next to the donation jar like a living logo. Adoptions finalized one after another. Between paperwork and applause, Phoebe found Harry near the projection cloth. He touched her wrist, minimal pressure, asking for silent permission. She nodded. They didn't share a movie kiss, not yet. They touched foreheads, breath mingling, and sealed the day.
Merry Christmas, Captain, he murmured. Merry Christmas, Commander, she replied.
Promise kept. The shelter exhaled. Snow kept falling outside. Inside, busy hands, warming cups, filling donation jars. And, at the center, no longer hiding, 2 people who had figured out how to be seen without losing sight of what mattered most. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe and stay to watch the next one.